Welcome to Rackets Biz, the only podcast that delivers data-driven insights into today's rackets industry. New clubs are opening consistently in the United States and all over the world. Some make it, some go out of business quickly. As an investor and facility operator, what is it that you need to know to create constant cash flow and consistent long-term ROI? Join me for today's episode. Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Dominique Lemperle. Today's guest is Katherine Lynch, the founder and CEO of Vamos Racquets, a new wellness and racket company based in New Jersey. A former U.S. Navy officer and Harvard women's squash captain and national champion, Katherine has built a career at the intersection of wellness, sports, and community. She previously helped scale Oscar Health and co-founded Ness, a health and wellness credit card startup. Today, she also advises startups and serves as the fractional COO of The Post, a network of former athletes turned business leaders. Katherine serves on the board of Kent Place School and the College Squash Association. She holds degrees from Harvard and UC Berkeley and lives in New Jersey with her husband and 2 daughters. Welcome, Katherine.
Thank you so much for having me today, Dominique. I'm so honored to be here. You're an incredibly impressive person, and I just appreciate the opportunity to be here and talk to you today about racket sports and leadership and all those fun things. So thanks.
Thank you for taking the time, because I know you probably have nothing on your plate all day. So
I was saying to you before, this is such a welcome break. You know, it's great to have a packed schedule, but these types of things give you a chance to reflect and get more energy, and so I appreciate it too.
Thanks again for taking the time. We'll get right into it. So I'm very curious about your career in the military. You served in the U.S. Navy for almost 6 years, and you were the right-hand person helping a 3-star admiral manage 325,000 sailors. That in itself sounds incredibly challenging to me. Which lessons have you learned in that leadership role that you're currently applying in your role as CEO? Share some stories if possible.
Yeah, of course. So I guess just a quick background about my kind of journey to the military. In college, I did ROTC, which is basically a program where you do military training in exchange for a scholarship, and then you owe service on the back end of when you graduate from college. So I did that. And really enjoyed the experience, and then served for, like you mentioned, 6 years. I was a surface warfare officer, so that means my responsibility was mostly to drive and navigate ships and to do all of the different kind of pieces of keeping a ship up and running and deploying. And so that was my first 2.5 years, was aboard a destroyer out of San Diego, deploying all over Southeast Asia, the Horn of Africa. We were the first responders to the nuclear meltdown in Japan in 2011. So a really fantastic deployment and experience, doing a lot of good work. And then I spent some time in Singapore for about 2 years, traveling around, working with other navies in that region. And then my last job was the one working for the Admiral as his right-hand person. Again, lots of travel around different military bases, meeting the sailors in the Navy, figuring out what we could do to help retain and train and just make their lives better while they were serving, and being ready for what needed to happen as part of in the Navy. So I think a couple, lessons learned. Number one is lead by example. And I think that's something that we've all heard as well as athletes and captains of various sports teams. But truly, I think that's like the best possible lesson, and that was like really drilled into you as in the Navy, and especially as an officer. So if you expect your team to get there at 5:30 a.m. and you're not there at 5:30 a.m., like what are you doing? So I really try to emulate that and think about that lesson every day. I think there's also another one that I try to think about and talk to my team about. It's always come with a recommendation. So people have problems all the time. You're always going to run into problems. And when you come to your boss or come to your team and say, "Hey, the water is leaking over here," and you don't have an answer to "so what," even if it's the wrong answer, I think that it's important to always come with that recommendation, even if you're wrong. Most of the time you'll be right, and what you recommend is the course of action that people will take. But that's definitely like a second, I would say, leadership lesson. And I think the third is just be proactive with your communication. So feed the bear, we say. So a hungry bear is going to go nosing around. It's going to go looking through the trash to find something to eat. It's going to be getting in your business. If you're feeding the bear proactively with information, with updates, with recommendations, with other things that are happening, that bear is going to be satiated and not come around looking to eat you or find some stuff. So those are just like, I guess, three kind of lessons that I still think about every day post Navy.
You know, all those three things that you mentioned are direct results of how not to get micromanaged by somebody.
Yes. Yes, so true. And that's a really big thing that you strive for in the Navy is autonomy and being given that responsibility and ownership. That is something that everyone really strives for. Even if it's like, I own this file cabinet in the bottom of the ship. I'm going to keep it clean and organized, and this is mine. All the way up to, obviously, I am the captain of this ship. I own this. I drive this. Obviously, ownership and autonomy comes with extreme accountability as well. So if anything ever goes wrong on that ship and you're in charge, it's your fault. But I completely agree. Like showing what we just talked about is a very good way to have that extreme ownership and be able to operate autonomously.
Yes. Of course, this sounds very stressful working for a three-star admiral, but you also mentioned that you had some good times as well playing squash while you were deployed in Africa and Singapore. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so obviously there's a lot of stressful times in the military, on a ship for 8 months at a time, standing watch. My main job on the ship was driving the ship and being the captain's representative on the bridge. So basically, I was making sure that we were navigating safely, that our engineering plant was running and appropriately, that we were doing all the appropriate maintenance. We weren't, running into little vessels all over the ocean. Southeast Asia is very, very busy in terms of little fishing vessels, so that can be quite stressful. But when you had a chance to get on land, there was such an amazing opportunity to meet other cultures and learn about other people. And when I was stationed in Singapore, I was able to play squash there, and I just feel like the connection that racket sports brings you around the world is so strong. And that's why, I've built that community and had the opportunity to be part of those communities throughout my life and in many different countries as well.
That's fantastic. Fantastic lesson that I love going abroad as well, and the relationships that you form over there are priceless.
Yes, and I always say just bring your racket with you. Whenever you travel, just bring a racket. Like first of all, if it's sticking out of your backpack, people are going to ask you, "Oh, what is that?" And for me, it's usually like, "Oh, is that tennis?" And I'm like, "No, it's squash." And anyone who knows squash is immediately like, "Oh my God," because it's a relatively small sport, but people who play racket sports love racket sports, and the more we can interact together and play each other's sports, and we really believe that at Vamos Racquets is like in the multi-racket sport revolution. But anyway, it really is such a great connector, and just I think traveling with your racket is always a good way to meet people.
Yes. Now you have a love for squash. Do you think that'll ever be part of a Vamos Rackets club?
I hope so eventually. We started with paddle and pickleball for a very good reason. Obviously, the popularity of pickleball is unmatched in the US, and then obviously paddle is coming hugely popular in the US. They're also both a bit easier to pick up than squash. Squash is just pretty challenging with the ball not being as bouncy and the angles and all of that. But eventually, I'd love to have some sort of squash vertical as part of Vamos for sure.
Yes. Tell me a little bit about Vamos Rackets. I went to your LinkedIn page and peeked at the description of Vamos Paddle, and I'm just going to read it out loud. It says, "We're not your typical club, and that's the point. From paddle and pickleball to good vibes and fitness, Vamos is designed to welcome everyone, first timers, lifelong athletes, and everyone in between. Our spaces are whimsical but intentional, inspired by the rhythm of racket sports." That's beautiful. Can you be a little bit more specific what you mean by whimsical?
Yeah. So, just like stepping back a little bit, we want to include everybody at Vamos. We believe that if you're a beginner, if you're older, younger, even if you're a pro, there's a space and a place for you on a court. Pickleball, paddle, eventually squash, tennis. Our vision is really a world where racket sports help everybody be happier, healthier, and more connected. And our mission at Vamos is to help people be who they want to be, both on and off the court. So I'm sure you've experienced this too. What you do on the court is important, but it's really how it affects the rest of your life. You feel happier, you feel more positive, more motivated, mentally, physically, socially. And I've really personally felt that and want to bring that feeling to more people. So the whimsical piece is really like, we don't want to take ourselves too seriously. These are sports that of course can be very intense, but are also playful. And so we really wanted to bring that in. And I think whimsy and it makes people feel more comfortable, more like they can be themselves and they can be a little bit quirky. We don't want to take ourselves too seriously, and that's sort of how we wanted to, as we're building these spaces, we wanted to bring that in.
I love that description. Makes me feel warm and welcome already.
Thank you. That makes me so happy. I think it's really about, and we can talk about this more, but about how you make people feel is the most important thing about building and running a business.
Absolutely. Making them feel they belong and making them
Yes.
feel like they're part of a community. I think that's the overriding similarity that all these clubs need to have. Doesn't matter where they're located. There are hundreds of clubs right now launching all over the United States, and they have some combination of paddle, pickleball, wellness, but without community, it's not going to go well. Would you agree with
Totally
that?
agree. 100% agree. And one thing I think we'll touch on later is just like as you're launching a facility, what are some things to think about? And we're pre-launch still. We haven't launched our facility yet, but we have done a bunch of kind of community activations. And as I think about our launch, obviously the details matter, but people are not going to think about, oh, is this towel the wrong color or was the light not working perfectly? They're going to think about how you made them feel. And I think that is the most important thing. So being physically present as an owner and operator, making sure you have really high standards for your my co-founder is a racket pro and he's absolutely amazing. But for your staff and your team, it's really about that and all the other kind of like details are not going to matter if you don't really invest in the community building and the feeling that you're giving your anyone who walks through the door.
Yes. Last week, we had a great discussion about the CEO sometimes has to wear different hats. Sometimes when something is not going well, you have to be teach a clinic, or you have to be the janitor, or you have to be the bookkeeper. Can you walk me through a typical week in your day, in your a typical week of
Yeah.
yours, and maybe describe the different hats that you have to wear throughout this week?
Yeah, it's so funny. So I actually think the Navy really prepares you for this type of job, because there is no job too small in the Navy. As an officer, as a captain, again, it's all about leading by example. So you're going to scrub the ship if it needs to be cleaned. You're going to clean up the bathroom if it's dirty. And there's also a saying about how the younger and more junior sailors always eat first. So they're always the one that go first in line, and the senior people stand in the back. And if there's not anything left, there's not anything left, but you put your people first. So I think that's very, very applicable to entrepreneurship and startups, and especially obviously building and operating racket facilities. My week, I would say I wear a lot of different hats. Obviously, mom and is a big one that I like to prioritize, of course. I have the Vamos work that I'm working on, and probably like 20 different things up in the air at the same time, both short, medium, and long term. So wearing those different hats: marketing, finance, sales. I just posted something on Instagram. I am not a social media expert at all, but trying to, make sure keep up with that too. Strategy, member services, operations. So a ton of different hats, but I love that. I realized obviously I've been in a few startups now, but I transitioned from Ness, the health and wellness credit card, to a big company for a few months, and realized I really missed that ownership, the kind of dynamic nature of entrepreneurship and of building a startup. I don't want to be at my desk all day doing the same thing. Like, I like being able to, I wake up early, do some work, go to the site, go see what's up, go on a podcast, go call someone, go look at another site. Like, it's nice for me to be out and to be doing a bunch of different things. So I can go into more detail, but that's just generally kind of some of the hats that I wear.
I agree. The more diverse the day is, the better. The more,
Yeah.
I'm the same with you. I cannot sit for
No.
5 hours at the same desk without moving around.
And I think that's the beauty of the hybrid kind of work environment. That, and obviously you're a rackets professional. I've never been a full-on rackets pro, so I've never spent 10 hours a day on teaching on a court. But I know that for it's hard sometimes to think about like a 9 to 5 in front of a computer. Now with this new kind of hybrid world, you can work for a few hours before your kids get up, and then be with your kids, and then work when they're at school. There's just like many different ways of getting work done. And I am very much an outcome. I love the process of things. I really, truly do train for physical, like sports training and building businesses. I love the process, but I'm a very outcome focused person. And so it doesn't matter kind of how the sausage is made. If you can get it done in an hour versus 10 hours, great. I think this kind of hybrid world and the startup and entrepreneurial work really lend itself well to that.
Yes. When you do get a chance to sit at your desk and analyze data, what metrics do you track to measure ROI for your operations, and what systems do you have in place to make sure you're on target?
Yeah, for sure. So we're pre-launch, but I've also run many other businesses, and I can talk about, I think, like the 3 pillars. Obviously, growth, cost, and quality. So growth is, how are you doing with your membership growth, or whatever your kind of product growth is. Obviously, financial growth as well as in that pillar. The second is cost. So how are you managing your operational costs? Things, all the things, people, facilities, any type of ancillary, legal, marketing, etc. So how are you balancing your costs? And then quality. So how high quality is your product? Are your members satisfied? Do you have good reviews? There's different ways of measuring that. NPS, referrals, retention, renewals, all of that. And so I kind of think of the business in those 3 ways. And then there's like many different metrics to measure in each of those.
Yep, that makes sense. And do you use certain software to help you with that?
Yeah, so I've probably used everything under the sun at this point. I have a really great outsourced finance team that I use to do the accounting and to do a monthly like P&L review and then help with forecasting as well. I have a really also great advisor on the finance side who helps with the who's built the forecasts and the models and all of that. Um, One kind of thing you need to realize as the founder is like, what are you not good at, or what do you need to outsource? And I would say I'm very good at knowing that. And so I knew that on the finance side, I know what to look for. I know what good looks like, but in terms of like actually crunching the numbers and building the models, I needed an expert on that. Um, Good old Google Sheets is always a good tool. Google Sheets, use a lot of Google Sheets. Slack I think is great. You get a lot done on Slack. I'm not a huge fan of like big project management tools like Asana or Monday.com. I think they cause or create more work than is needed. And so I try to be as minimalist as possible. And I joke with people too that like writing something down on a list is actually a really effective way of getting stuff done. Making a
Absolutely.
list. Just get it out of your brain and onto a piece of paper. And then I think the last thing I'll say is like my Google Calendar is very color coded, and I have I live and die by my Google Calendar.
Sure. Whatever helps
Yeah,
keeping us organized.
exactly. Yes.
You mentioned you're currently working on your first location in East Hanover, New Jersey. Is that
Yes.
correct? And you're
Yes.
facing some real estate bureaucracy issues. Can you go a little bit into more detail?
Yeah, I think it's kind of happening right now, so I don't have all the details. And but we partnered with a real estate developer to build on their land, and they're working with the town just through some challenges with zoning and permitting and stuff like that. And so yeah, we're kind of just like caught in the middle and waiting on it. It'll happen, but it's been a tough couple months because we were supposed to launch this summer, and it's looking like it may be in the spring.
Mm,
So just give us good vibes. Keep your fingers crossed because our courts are up and constructed and beautiful and ready for people to play on them.
I see. So you're waiting for certain permitting to come in and
Basically.
yeah. Okay. So, assuming that your first location is up and running, what is your thought of on pickleball and wellness? Is that going to help significantly with the growth of paddle, or do you think paddle will grow by itself?
Yeah. So my goal is to really just get more rackets and paddles in people's hands because I think racket sports are obviously you know this, but racket sports are the best. They are lifelong sports. They are fun, social, give people energy. So I just think the more rackets and paddles people have in their hands and the more they're playing, the better. So in that sense, I think having pickleball is fantastic. I think it's getting people on the court. It's not as intimidating. Obviously, at high levels, it's extremely athletic and extremely challenging. But at a beginner level, you can hit the ball your first time. And that's very rewarding. And it starts this nice cycle of excitement for people to then pick it up again and come back and feel good. So I think in that sense, pickleball is great for racket sports in general. And I think actually pairing pickleball and paddle is a good thing. Pickleball is extremely well known. It draws people from many different communities. Paddle is very new in this region specifically. So we need to get people in the door and exposure to paddle as a sport to start. And pickleball is a great way to do that. I think there will be
Yes.
some crossover. I'm excited to kind of see what the crossover looks like between pickleball and paddle, but I do think having them alongside each other will help the growth of paddle for sure. And then on the wellness side, like I mentioned, that we want to work with people both on and off the court. I think there's a lot off the court that you can do to be better on the court, and they're just better in life in general. So strength and conditioning, recovery, mindfulness. I need to do more mindfulness. I'll be honest on that one. But stuff like that will always help you on the court be a better athlete, better competitor, better teammate, and also better in the other things you want to do in your life with business, family, other things too.
Yes. And how many courts will you have? How many pickleball, paddle, and how much wellness space will you have in your first location?
Sure. So we'll have 4 pickle and 4 paddle courts outdoors to start. And then indoors, we will have, which is either going to be owned by us or we'll have a partnership with a full fitness facility, and then some recovery stuff in there as well. There will also be a cafe and like juice bar. So it'll be a place where you can really stay for the day because there'll also be places to work in that area as well.
So outdoors in New Jersey, will you have a bubble then in the winter?
I'm hoping for next season we'll be able to have one of the covers on a few of the courts, but we in our business model we've planned to be closed for 3 months of the year. I'm hoping that obviously today's a little rainy, but things are getting warmer here, sadly, and people do play a lot of sports outside in the winter as well. So we'll see how it goes, but yeah, that was a trade-off for sure. Playing outside is amazing when the weather is good and then you're inside, you're like, oh my gosh, I want to be outside, and then vice versa. But real estate is really a limiting factor in the growth of paddle. And so I really hopped on this opportunity to be in a great location with a lot less overhead for operations and being able to launch pretty quickly.
Yes. And why did you choose this location in
Yeah.
particular?
So I grew up in this area in Morris County, New Jersey, and now I live in the county next to it. So I'm about 20 minutes away from the first location. The first location is located on a very well-trafficked, like kind of highway. So there's a lot of visibility. You could actually see the courts from the road, which is great for the sport, great for us. And it was within 20 minutes of where I live. And so, and the real estate developers are fantastic partners. So checked a lot of the boxes. I want to be, and I will be, a very hands-on operator of the facility, especially the first one. And so I wanted it to be close. And so I could also lean on the community that I've built here over the last 30 plus years.
And you have a company, Vamos Racquets is a company, so you're planning to build how many more clubs?
Yeah. I don't know an exact number, but we're not only looking at just clubs, but we're also looking at other verticals within the racket space. So things like management of existing clubs, popping up courts in different places like malls, let's say, or existing hotels and resorts, other places that might have underutilized space. And so we're actively pursuing those opportunities as well, but we do at least want to have one flagship location and then ideally some more starting in the Northeast.
I see. I see. So it's not just facility management, it's also potentially hiring people to work at hotels or management companies.
Yeah, or bringing, we could bring the Vamos brand to many different places. So we're very much like a turnkey solution. So we'll be up and running and have all the operational infrastructure and programming infrastructure. We know how to build courts. We know how to operate courts. So that's a very, I think, attractive product for a bunch of different types of companies that might want to get into the paddle and or pickleball space and don't necessarily want to start from scratch.
And as you build your new clubs, how do you take demographics into consideration when you pick locations for your new clubs?
Yeah, I think density is really important. Obviously, proximity to highways, especially in the New Jersey area, is important. But again, there's like such a small amount. There's so many different criteria that have to come together to find a location that works for paddle, that you kind of have to be opportunistic as well. But yeah, demographics, I think, like I mentioned, density, proximity to easy highways and that type of thing are definitely something we think about.
Yep. Very interesting. I cannot wait to come visit you as soon as that's open.
Oh yeah, you're on the VIP list. Don't worry. We'll be hopefully open soon.
I love it. Now let's talk about training your staff, training your people. What lessons can you take again from your military background, from your former corporate background? How can you apply those lessons to training people at Vamos Racquets?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one of the benefits of serving in the military is that you're given the opportunity to manage a team right from the start. So I was 21, 22 years old and responsible for a team of 9 sailors in the electrical engineering department. So that was my job day one. And then obviously I've had many other leadership and management opportunities since then. I think number one is really like get to know your people, understand what makes them tick, be interested in them. And yeah, and I think that's honestly number one. So like talk to them and get to know them, understand what their goals are. Investing in your people is super important. So again, you mentioned this before, but most people want to have responsibility and autonomy. So the goal would be to align up front on just general operating principles, mission, vision, values, meaning the way that we operate, and then give them runway to execute. So always say, hey, I'm here, I'm available. We're going to have a check-in X amount of times per week or whatever the systems that you want to put in place are. But giving people the opportunity to really own and drive things, I think, is huge, because that's how you scale a business and scale yourself. There's a saying that an old friend said, which is like, you have to know what the rubber balls are and what the glass balls are. So rubber balls are, if you drop a ball, it's going to bounce back. It's not a big deal. Glass, if you drop it, it shatters. So with new teammates, you want to give them the rubber balls, see how they do, give them the chance. If they make a mistake, it's not a huge deal. And then obviously hand over the glass balls when you feel like they're responsible enough to handle it. I think also just generally being positive, optimistic, communicative is really important as a manager. Providing structure and clarity and what the goals are, what you want to achieve, and bringing the team along. And I think lastly, just some vulnerability and some humor and transparency with what's going on. I share, hey, things aren't going well right now, but don't worry, we got a plan. Or, hey, I had it's been a rough day. Like, that's okay. We're going to figure it out. So both sharing challenges, but then obviously being that kind of guide and reassuring figure in your team's life too.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds like a very good work environment that you set. It's I really like the analogy with rubber balls and glass balls. Some people, you can also apply that to people who work for you. Maybe some of them are more like rubber balls and they bounce back.
I like that.
They bounce back when they face certain challenges and fail. And others are more like glass balls and they shatter when they fail. And they may need some help rebounding because they're not used to failure. So I really like that analogy that you provided. Thanks for that.
No, thank you. I never thought about it with relating it to people. So that's a really interesting application of that too.
So let's talk about the inward right now. Everybody's talking about this work-life balance. Some people say work is life. Work should be, you're always working, don't separate the two. Others are saying you need to make a very clear, draw the line. I am not working right now. I am off. My phone is off. My email is off. How do you operate with your family, your husband, your 2 daughters? What is your approach to work-life balance?
Yeah. So I think you have to know what kind of person you are. Does your job is that part of your identity? Is it really important that you like your job, that you're doing well at your job? Like, is that important to you? Or is it more of, hey, I'm going to work for the money because I need it to live the rest of my life? For me, it's definitely the former. And I very much feel tied to what I do for work in terms of my purpose in life. And then, just thinking about success for a second, like, what are we all working for? What is success? I think I finally have a definition that feels true to me and that I can, feel good about. And it's really spending time on things that you care about. Like, to me, that is success. It's not like a certain amount of money. It's not a certain amount of time. It's not a certain outcome necessarily. It's really, am I spending the time that I have on things that I care about? And I feel like my transition into this work over the last couple of years, I've really married the things that I love personally with racket sports, community building, startups, professionally with building businesses and doing that type of work. And then personally, obviously, I'm able to be, obviously I'm working a lot, but have a little bit more flexibility in terms of working from home for the most part. And so I am able to be like with my kids more than I would if I was commuting to the city or traveling all the time for work. So I guess my balance is very much defined by a daily kind of discipline. And I think probably no one will be surprised from my military background that I use the word discipline, but I wake up early every morning unless I'm really sick or tired or whatever. So same time every morning, get a bunch of stuff done before anybody gets up. I just feel like I'm able to be proactive in my day versus being dragged. So I'm like, I'm driving the car, I'm not being dragged behind the car. So just daily discipline in that way. Always have some movement or exercise. Try to eat well and all of that. And I think that also enables you to be more efficient, more effective at work, and you can kind of, bounce in between those things as needed throughout the day.
How early is early?
5:25.
5:25.
Well, it's not that bad. It's not that bad.
No.
Right?
No, it's
I'm not like a 4. Some people are like 4 a.m. I'm like, oh my God, no.
right.
No. Yeah, 5:25 I feel like is like a reason. It's early for sure, but it's like reasonable.
Do you set your alarm or do you wake up?
I always set an alarm, but I often wake up before it.
Got it. Got it.
I go to bed.
Okay.
Sleep is very important. Very important for
Absolutely.
making good decisions and feeling good for sure.
And what time on average is bedtime? How many hours of sleep do you give yourself?
Yeah. It sounds so funny, but I'm usually asleep by like 9:30 probably.
Love it.
Yeah. Early to
Love
bed
it.
for sure. And I think, it depends, like as my kids get older and stuff, like it'll probably flex a little. And of course, when we have events at Vamos that are running late and all that, like you just have to, figure it out and make trade-offs. But I think it's just, what do you as an individual need to feel your best? And for me, that's some of the things I just shared, because if you're not figuring that out, then you're not going to be able to show up well for all the things that are important to you in your life.
Yes. Well said. One more question, Katherine, and then I'll let you get back to your incredibly busy day. I ask every guest the same question. You already answered some of it, but what advice do you have for first-time facility operators so they stay in business long term and don't go bankrupt after 1 year?
Yes. So we're not open yet, but things that I'm keeping in mind now so we don't end up in that bankrupt situation. Obviously, number one is keep a financial buffer. So expect that things are going to cost more and that you're going to make less money than you think you are. So I would say the number one driver of that is keeping expenses down as much as possible. I think about that with every expense I add is another like court booking I need, another membership I need, like quantify it in some way. And then you can use that as a sense check for like, is this really necessary? So thinking about, every $1,000 I spend is another 10 memberships I need to get each month, for example.
Yes.
I think secondly is like keep things as simple as possible. Don't try to do too much too soon. So, we're going to try to obviously have robust programming, but let's keep it within a framework, keep it relatively simple and see what works. So you want to like test things out and then kind of iterate from there. And then lastly, I think it's just try to stay positive. Just be optimistic, be positive. Things are going to be hard. Not every day is going to go well. This has been a very challenging time for us with this delay in opening, but we are, figuring out other ways to expand in the meantime. And so positivity and that attitude is infectious in such a good way. And so that is another thing that I think is really important in the first year of operations, is to keep your head up and keep going.
That sounds like a very sound advice. Keep your expenses down, keep things simple, and be optimistic. That's very similar to what we heard last week.
Oh, great. Love
from another very successful CEO. So
great. Well, I hope that I'll be in that position next year as well, and we can have a follow-up.
Yes, I cannot wait for that. And hopefully you will teach me squash someday when I come visit.
I would love that. And I think we were chatting about this before, but you taught my girls tennis at Racket X this past
Yes.
year. And I have to send you the pictures, but they had the best time. You were such a wonderful coach. They had so much fun. You're so encouraging. So anytime you can get on court with Dominique, you definitely should.
And they were so engaging and so outgoing, and I had the best time. I still remember.
Yeah.
That moment.
They're still playing
Katherine,
tennis.
that's good. That's good. Katherine, thank you so much for your time. It's been an honor and a privilege talking to you, and I cannot wait to watch your success of Vamos Racquets.
Thank you so much for having me, Dominique. This was really fun, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today.
If people want to learn more about Vamos Racquets, how can they do that?
Yeah, of course. So Instagram at Vamos Racquets, RACQUETS, that way of spelling rackets. And then you can always email me, Katherine at VamosRackets.com. Those are probably the best ways to get in touch. But yeah, I'd love to hear from anybody. Always love to talk racket sports and building in this space.
Thank you so much, Katherine. And we will see you next time on Rackets Biz. Don't miss the next episode and subscribe to Rackets Biz on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Like us on LinkedIn and Instagram. See you next week.